Welcome to Real Estate 411 with Bob and Beth. I'm Bob Moore from Costello Realty. Costello Realty is located at 195 Main Street in Franklin, Mass. I'm here today with my good friend and co-host, Beth Vega-Whitman.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Beth, good to have you back with us.
Yeah.
We got a very interesting show here today. Last show we talked about septic systems. Today we're going to be talking just about Title V inspections.
Yeah, we have Title V inspections and the process and what you run into. And today we have Al Rivet again talking to us. Al's from All Clear Septic, and nice to have you back.
Yeah, welcome
Thank you
back,
for having
Al.
me. Thank you.
Yeah. So today we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what's required of a Title V inspection. What do you do? How does the process roll? So maybe you can tell us what why it came about and how it came about, the Title V law.
Sure. The Title V Code of Massachusetts regulations came about in 1995, and the state implemented that law for a number of reasons to protect homeowners and home buyers. So when a property is sold, a septic system will be up to standard.
And functioning.
Functioning properly.
Correct. And also the purpose of Title V inspections are to protect the environment. If a system is too close to the groundwater or polluting the groundwater or a nearby stream, brook, or waterway, Title V inspections should preclude that. So those are the two main reasons why the inspection law was implemented, to protect homeowners, buyers, and to protect the environment.
And who can do a septic inspection or Title V inspection?
Do you have to be licensed to do that, or just get the plumber down the street, or how does that work?
Sure. The state issues licenses to Title V inspectors. You have to take the course and take the test and pass it. And certain towns also require you to be licensed in the town to be a Title V inspector. Not all, but there are some that do that.
State and town.
State and town, yes.
Is there apprenticeship or hours or anything like that too?
Before you take the Title V inspection course, you have to have had some experience in septic work.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now you're a licensed practicing Title V inspector, and we call you up. What's the process involved?
Okay, generally what we do at All Clear is we interview the homeowner or whomever calls us to do the inspection. It could be a buyer, or it could be a realtor, or it could be a banking institution. Correct.
Yeah.
So we interview whoever calls us for an inspection, and we ask a bunch of questions to do with the home and the septic system, the history, how many people have lived there, and so forth.
So the use and occupancy of the past and what they know about where certain things are.
Yep, and how many times it's been pumped and maintained and so forth. So once we complete the interview of the customer, we do some research at the Town Board of Health. And we get plans and whatever information is available there, along with water table information. And the reason that we get water table information is that we have to show that septic systems are far enough away from the groundwater to protect the environment and to assure that the system is working properly. Once we do our research at the Board of Health, then we go to the property. We check the interior of the home. We have to count number of bedrooms. We have to see if there is a garbage disposal or not.
That's not good, is it?
Generally, garbage disposals are not good for septic systems. If you do have one, your system has to be larger and permitted by the town. So we check number of bedrooms, we check for garbage disposal, we check to see where the laundry is, where the washing machine is, and to make sure it's connected to the septic system, which it has to be according to Title V code.
So they can't have a separate gray water or something like that?
You can have a separate system for your washing machine, but it has to be engineered and it has to go into a septic tank.
So it still has
Yeah.
to meet the same criteria. It's just a separate system. So most of the time, they just get a bigger system if they're
Yeah.
going to do that.
Generally, it's not cost effective
To do two.
for a homeowner to have a separate system for the laundry.
Do you see a lot of the do-it-yourself homeowners sticking the washer on their own system there?
Historically, there are a lot of washing machines that go into separate dry wells, and when we do an inspection, we have to say whether that is there or not. And if it is there, then generally it has to be reconnected to the main septic tank.
Okay.
So after we do that, we spend some time down cellar checking where the main sewer pipe is in the cellar, measuring its depth from the top of the foundation. We have to measure the distance to the water supply, if it's a well. And we check to see if there's a sump pump down there. Then that's information that tells us about where the water table is in that area.
Sure.
So we spend about 10 minutes inside the home doing those things.
And I think you mentioned bedrooms, all right? And bedrooms is how you have to state how big the system is that right?
Not bathrooms?
No, we don't. We don't have to count bathrooms, and that's right on the inspection
Right.
report. But we do have to count bedrooms, and that's a question that is asked us right on the state inspection form. It asks us how many bedrooms the system was designed for, and it also asks us what number of bedrooms actually exist in the home. Sometimes that's different. Sometimes it's more bedrooms than designed. Sometimes it's less. But we have to put that on the report and answer that question.
Okay.
Once we've done the inside the house stuff, we go outside and locate the septic tank. Sometimes it's very obvious where it is. Sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's quite a challenge. I've seen that a lot.
Right. Sometimes
Plans from the town hall don't exactly line up, huh?
correct. Sometimes they're correct and sometimes
Yeah.
they're not. So we have equipment to locate septic tanks if we have to. We have metal detectors and we have sewer cameras and so forth. Once we locate the tank, we have to open up generally two covers. The inlet side of the septic tank where the pipe is that comes from the home, and then we have to open up the outlet cover, which houses the pipe that leaves the septic tank and goes out to either the distribution box or the leach field. We have to check the levels in the tank and check the amount of solids and so forth and do several measurements. Once that's done, we locate where the distribution box is. And again, sometimes that's easy, sometimes it isn't. We generally use a sewer camera to locate that. It's just like an endoscope. When we send a camera down the pipe, it tells us where the distribution box is, and sometimes it tells us the condition of it.
So like an aqua camera.
Yes, like an aqua camera.
But you still have to dig it up and physically check it.
Yes, by the state code, we do have to locate and dig up the distribution box.
So both the tank, you're going to dig up the lids to the tank and the D box to see, or the distribution box to see. Now, are those both concrete? Or what are
Generally,
they
they're
made
concrete. They can be plastic or polyethylene, but most of them are concrete.
The older ones.
Yes.
My yard's going to look great after you get done with it, huh?
Well, we try to be very careful with
Right.
our homeowners, and if it's a nice lawn, we cut out the sod and put it on tarps and put our dirt on tarps, and we like to
best you
leave.
can, yeah.
We like to leave a property as we found it, and people very much appreciate that. Once we locate the distribution box, we open it up and check the levels in there, and if everything looks okay to that point, and we're satisfied that the system is out of the water table, that's all the excavation that we do. Do our measurements in the distribution box, take a look around where the leach field is, make sure that things are looking normal, that we don't have squishy ground on top of the leach field, and then do up our 17-page report along with a sketch, and give a copy to the homeowner and a copy to the health department if it's going to be an official report. And we
So
generally...
are they always official reports, or are there other kinds of reports?
Can you get an unofficial one? If I
Yes.
was thinking of moving, they just wanted to know what
Or
kind of
see.
condition my septic was in without pulling the full report. You could
Sure.
come out and do, we'll say, a visual and just let me know.
Sure, great question. So, written right into the law, we can do a voluntary assessment, and that's what it's called. It's this, for us, it's for our company, it's the same work as a Title V inspection. We check out everything to do with your septic system, and the difference between an official report and a voluntary assessment is that we give the report to the homeowner, whoever requested the inspection, and not to the health department. And that's written into the law. It's not anything that's illegal. It's just like having your mechanic check your car. You can have a mechanic check your car and not go on the inspection report. Same thing with the septic system.
So you're just trying to, it's a good thing to plan if you're going to be doing something in the future, or if you are wondering, what's the health of my septic system? It's 20 years old. It
Sure.
must be past its prime. But I think you had said in our previous show that it doesn't mean that if it's 20 years old, it's no longer
Automatically
efficient.
yeah.
It's not going to fail. You just have to look at it and see the condition.
Correct. It's just like having your yearly physical. Once you get to be my age, you should have a
Average.
yearly physical. It's the same thing. The more you know about your body, the the better you can deal with things and protect yourself and so forth by doing the right things for it. It's the same thing with a septic system. If you know about it and what condition it's in, you can take your precautions and it'll last you longer. The people at University of Rhode Island tell us if you do certain things to your septic system, like pump it regularly, install a filter, and install risers so that the system is accessible for pumping, then your system can last you indefinitely. And that's where we get most of our education from the experts at University of Rhode Island.
What do the expert thinks of these magic bullets you hear on TV? Flush this down your toilet and it's going to solve all your problems.
Sure.
Is that true, or is it just like pouring some of that stuff in your engine that you think it's going to revive it, where it's probably not?
Generally, they don't recommend additives. Any of the people at the colleges or the state health departments or the federal health department, they don't recommend additives. They tell us that the bacteria that comes from our home is enough to keep your system healthy. I think technology is evolving. I think there are a number of additive bacteria and enzymes and so forth that can be helpful. However, that's out of my league. I'm not a chemist or a biologist. I take my information from the experts,
Right.
generally at URI or from the state and local health departments.
Well, you mentioned pumping. Now, how often should someone have a system pumped? Is it different, or how often should that happen?
Yes, it is different. So it depends on the number of people in your home and how much water usage is going through the home. If you have town water, you can monitor your water usage just by calling your water department. They'll tell you how much water you're using. If you have a well, you don't know how much water you're using. So could you tell me your question again, and I'll finish answering it?
Well, so how often should, if there's two people
Pumping.
in a house, how often should it be pumped? And is that different
Just as a
than
general
6?
rule.
Let's
Sure.
take that from the top. Beth, ask her question again, please.
Okay, all right. So with the septic system, how often should you have it pumped? Is it different for different families or uses, or how do you know?
Yes, it is different. So it depends on how much water the home uses, and it all depends on, it depends partially on how many people live in the home. So water usage is a big criteria, and you can find out what your water usage is by calling your water department. They'll tell you exactly how much water you use. So if the water use is inordinate, then you should have your system pumped more often. If you have two people in the home, then probably every 3 to 4 years have it pumped.
Just as a general rule. Yeah.
Sure. If you have 4 people in your home, then maybe you should be thinking of 2 to 3 years. And if there are 6 or more people, you should be pumping yearly.
Or one teenager?
Or one teenager.
Especially a teenage girl washing her hair for half an hour at a time.
Yeah, teenagers like to be clean.
Yeah.
So it depends on usage and number of people in the home.
Good. And then as far as the voluntary, you said that's only for their personal use, so that doesn't get reported anywhere, and it gives them the ability to plan and go forward. And then later they would have to do a full Title V when they went to sell that property, correct?
That's correct. But if you have knowledge of your system, then you have a pretty good idea of when you do have your official inspection whether it's going to pass or not. So it is, like you said, good planning.
Or
for
hopefully you
sure.
fixed anything that
Right,
needed
if
to
the
be.
D box was gone or something like that, get it out of the way. so
Exactly.
when you're ready to sell, it's going to pass with flying colors.
I
Sure.
did forget, did I ask how long is the Title V inspection for? I forget.
It's good for 2 years,
Okay.
and it's good for 3 years if you pump your system once a year. So on the anniversary of the inspection, if you have it pumped, and have it pumped on each year's
So each year.
anniversary,
Okay.
yep, then the inspection is good for 3
For
years.
another year.
Practically speaking, banks kind of monitor that situation, and if an inspection is older than 6 months, some banks will require you to have another one, but that's their rule. It's not a state or a town rule.
Ouch. Al, what's the worst thing I can do for my septic system?
Overuse of water is one of the worst things. Using a lot of chemicals to do with bleach and harsh toilet chemicals to clean your toilet.
Like Drano and things like that, you're talking?
Yep, things like that. Or just toilet cleaners if you use them to excess, or bleach to excess.
Because those kill
They
the
kill
good
the
bugs.
good bacteria, that's correct. Everybody uses some of that stuff, and we have to live our lives. However, if you go easy with it, it can keep your system healthier. So the worst things are overusage of water, chemicals, antibacterial soaps.
Just the hand soaps you're talking, huh?
Well, some of your dishwashing soaps are antibacterial, and I think some of your laundry soaps are antibacterial. So if you have a thing about antibacterial soaps, just keep it to a minimum. Don't use very much of it. We had a system that was 2 years old that failed because they had heavy use of antibacterial soaps, and it just sent all of the solids out to the leach field, and it clogged it up.
Clog the
And
whole system.
we
Wow.
verified that by digging up the leach field, and we found a jelly-like substance in the bottom of the leach field that made it a bathtub instead of a leach field.
Wow. And it was
Water
all from
couldn't escape it.
Antibacterial soaps and
Yep, kills the good bacteria. So, overuse of water, chemicals, antibacterial soaps, fats, oils, and greases. Try and clean your pots and pans and dishes in your trash, as opposed to sending all that
dumping
stuff.
dumping all that into the trash.
Yep.
Or use a compost system to dump your, vegetables and meats and everything else.
Yep. And garbage disposals are tough on a septic system. They just make it work much harder, and a lot of systems can't handle a garbage grinder.
I'm sure you don't want me washing my paintbrushes in the kitchen sink either, right?
Latex paint is tough on a septic
Latex.
system, so take it
Blistering oil,
outside,
yeah.
rinse it
Clean it
off in a
up.
5-gallon bucket, and dispose of it in another way rather than in your septic system. And there are a number of do's and don'ts you can find on our website and on the federal website, which is it's a homeowner's guide to septic systems. And there's a link to it on our website, but it's put out by the feds, and it's the best little piece of information on caring for your septic system that I've seen.
So you do
Yeah,
and
it's-
don'ts.
It'd be
Is there
very
anything
interesting.
else you could prolong the life of? Are there things you could do to prolong your system?
Yep. Installing risers so that the tank and the distribution box is accessible for maintenance and pumping. Install a filter in your septic tank, it simply filters everything that leaves your septic tank, most everything, before it goes out to your distribution
And
box.
that's something you would do, not I would do.
It's something that you
would do.
should
I
have.
would do
wanna
it.
crawl into the tank.
It should be done by a professional, and that's what's recommended by the health departments.
Would that help stop the laundry scum and things like that from getting out in your leaching field? Or
It'll take some of it out, but
I'm better off using common sense. Don't get it in there. No.
yep. And one article that we recommend is a laundry filter, and it looks just like a water filter, and you simply send your washing machine discharge into this filter and then back into your septic system. So it filters out a lot of the synthetic fabrics that really don't deteriorate for many, many years, and it'll take out a lot of the soap scum, which will fail your system
Another
prematurely.
big problem there.
Correct. And another thing you asked about, do's and don'ts. Try not to use all of your water devices at one time. In other words, don't do a dishwashing and have the kids taking the shower and do laundry at the same time. It's just sending too much water out into your
All
leach
at
field
once.
at one time, and it'll just clog it and overload it. So again, it's a common sense issue. Spread things out, and don't do all of your laundry on a Saturday. It's difficult. Most people work, and Saturday is their day. But try and do a load a day rather than 5 or 6 on a Saturday.
All in one
It's
shot, yeah.
better for your septic system.
Just to keep the water flowing through.
Well, those are some
instead
good
of-
points that most
yeah.
people would never think of.
No, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Water softener discharge is very tough on a septic system, and it's outlawed by the state health department now. Historically, a lot of them they're discharged into the septic tank. The salt that's in those systems kills the good bacteria, and it just adds a lot of water and turbulence to your septic tank, stirring up all the solids and sending them out to the leach field. So if you have a water softener, send the discharge somewhere else other than your septic tank. A dry well, for
Those are the
instance.
ones you put the big cubes of salt in, and you're talking about the salt.
Yeah, they're
in the water.
pellets
Yeah.
actually. They come in a bag, and they're salt pellets, and they do some sort of a chemical thing to the water to make it less hard.
And just the discharge, the water is okay you're getting from it, right?
Yes, and the discharge is similar to a swimming pool filter. It purges itself, and if you send it into your septic system, it can kill your system prematurely. And again, it's not allowed by the state
I didn't know that.
for good
Yeah,
reasons.
that makes sense.
Well, we're kind of on the border here with Mass and Rhode Island. What does Rhode Island do? Do they have a Title V down there? If I'm thinking of buying a house in Rhode Island that's on septic, should I have a Title V done, or can you tell us about Rhode Island?
Sure. Rhode Island does not have a mandatory inspection law for property sales. However, the University of Rhode Island has a course, it's called Functional Inspections, and a number of professionals from Rhode Island have taken that course. We actually teach the practical end of that course for the University of Rhode Island. So it's called a functional inspection in Rhode Island. In Massachusetts, it's called a Title V inspection. It's basically the same inspection. They have their own different form, and it's pretty comprehensive. And if a homeowner is looking at selling a home or buying a home in Rhode Island, we strongly suggest that they have one of these inspections done.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're selling your home, it just protects you in that you're selling your buyer a good product.
You know what you're getting.
You know what you're getting. You know what you're selling, and for the buyer, it's just a safety factor in that you know that you're buying a house with a good septic system or not.
Kind of makes sense. I mean, it seems to me that would, being in the mortgage field and being that would be the biggest cost, probably a single thing you could do to a house if it failed, that would be something that you'd want to have tested.
It's almost a
and
no-brainer.
Yeah, to
When you're
want
looking
to
at
have
30,
it.
40,000 if it fails.
Sure, and
As it
again,
makes the house inhabitable and unsafe, and you can't lend on a house that doesn't have a Title V or a working septic system.
sure. So if you buy a house and you move into it, and a couple of months down the road, your septic system is failing, then you're looking at a $15,000 to $40,000 bill to fix it.
Right.
Whereby if you know ahead of time that the system is not working, then you can negotiate with your seller in the cost of fixing the system, either lower the cost of the house or fix it ahead of time.
Right, exactly.
Just information that you should know about the house you're buying.
About one of the biggest expenses you're
Right.
ever going to take.
Correct.
Now, we get a system out, it fails. Is there anything you can do other than dig the whole thing up and start from scratch to bring that back? And is it worth your while trying to do that, or am I better off if I have a system that completely failed, just get rid of it, put a whole new system in, or you got some magic trick up your sleeve to bring the old one back?
There's not a lot of magic out there, but when a system fails, the first thing that you do is, if you intend on putting in a new system, you hire an engineer, and the engineer does a perk test and a soil evaluation, and that's generally accompanied by the town health agent, and he does what he needs to do as far as finding out about the soils and the water table in the property. Then he designs a system that'll fit that property. submits that to the Town Board of Health for their approval, and then you can get prices to fix the system. Some systems can accommodate septic rejuvenation, and it's generally about half the cost of putting in a new system. The system has to qualify for this. It has to be so far away from the water table, and it has
So
to
it
be...
can't be a fail because it's too close. It has to be a mechanical fail, I think.
Right. It has to be a hydraulic failure, they call it. It has to be something to do with a clogging of the system. So there are some technologies out there that will add oxygen and biology to the septic system that'll make it act better, and generally they're guaranteed to do that within a year's time or less. And they also...
Superbugs?
Well, superbugs plus oxygen.
Like that scrubbing commercial where they have the superbugs?
Yeah, they're all in Well, how about like a roto-rooter? You can't get that out into the leaching fields and clean all that out instead of digging it up?
No, you
No, it
can't.
doesn't work,
No, it's a little more complicated than that. If you could take the whole leach field out and run it through a big washing machine and put it back, that could work, but it's not practical.
Super flush, that would wreck everything, though.
Yeah.
So these technologies can enhance a system and get it to pass a Title V inspection.
But you said it could take up to a year for it to come up to where the standard
Yes.
would be.
So generally, it's good for a homeowner that's going to stay on the property for a number of years. However, we have a number of technologies in the ground that properties have sold, within months after putting in this rejuvenation system.
So it takes some time. So if I'm selling a house, we'll say in a month or two, and the system fails, there's anything you do real quick to go out there and rejuvenate it.
Not real quick, no. No,
Another good reason to do that voluntary inspection,
Yep.
because
Get it done a couple of years
if
before.
you're planning on doing that and you have something that has that, it gives you the time to try that first.
Correct.
Now, the cost you said could be about half the cost. Is the cost because what's the cost involved, and what does it cost to do it? I know you said it can be expensive.
Sure. Well, the cost of replacing your system generally involves, number one, engineering, and then number two, a major excavation on the property. You
Ripping
have
up your
to,
whole lawn.
if the septic system is going in the same area as the old one, then all of that has to be removed.
That's
So-
hazardous waste, right?
Yeah, it is, and so you have to dig it up, truck it away, and then bring in material for the new system. So that's a costly venture. The cost on the procedure to put in septic rejuvenation generally involves putting in a technology right in your existing septic tank, and then adding bacteria to it, adding an air pump to your system. And so as far as disrupting the property, it's very minimal. It's adding an air pump, adding a component into the septic
They
tank,
go right into the tank.
right into the tank, yep. And other technologies will actually pump air out into the leach field. So,
Does that stay there? Is that now permanent in the system? That's what I was
yes,
wondering.
yes.
Okay. So those new things that you're doing that are fixing it are not a temporary, it's a permanent change. Do
Right, but they do stay for the life of the system.
you have to put new bugs in there?
Yes.
On a
Yeah, pretty much on a yearly basis. And the systems need to be maintained on a yearly basis. And there is some electricity involved and maintenance of the air pump and so forth. So
It's kind of complicated.
well, it's not that complicated. It's a pretty simple process, and again, it's half the cost. And everybody should have their system checked once a year. Anyhow, it's just good practice. So this just forces good maintenance of a septic system.
And after that is done, when could I get a passable Title V? You came out there, my system's failed miserably. You come out, you do all this, new bugs and everything else that went with it. Would it be 6 months or a year I can maybe get a Title V or longer?
I suppose it would depend on the system.
Ballpark.
Every system is different. Months. I don't honestly know the answer to that question. Several months to a year, I think, would be standard. But the way to know that would be to have another Title V inspection done. It still has to meet the Title V inspection criteria. So if it does, after being in operation for 2 months, 6 months, or a year. If it passes a Title V inspection, then you're good to go. You do have to advise your buyer, if you have one of these systems, that you do have one.
And the last thing I was going to ask you, the annual cost for the superbugs, or what would you say the annual maintenance cost for one of these?
The annual
systems?
maintenance is somewhere between $150 and $300 a year.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yep. Yeah,
They're putting the whole new system in.
correct.
And that's something you have to get the super bugs. I can't pick them up at Walmart, right?
Right.
Well, Al, thank you very much for all this information. You've really been great. We got a lot of very useful information here, and we really appreciate it.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for your time and your expertise. It was
Sure.
really a lot of things I never knew.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if you have some questions out there on your septic system, a do or don't, or you just want some general information, please feel free to email me at the address below, and I'll forward that to Al, and he'll get back to you with an answer. So on behalf of Real Estate 411, with Bob, Beth, and Al from All Clear Septics, thank you very much again for watching.
And we'll see you next time.